Cool. All right. Hello, OpenStack. So we're going to talk about containers. So at the moment, we basically build virtual machines and deploy the application using Ansible or Chef. So when looking at our container model, we wanted to move towards a model that put configuration management first. So going back to Docker files and asking our development teams to rewrite their applications using Docker files really wasn't an option. So what we've done is we're using Packer for this. We plug into Ansible, and then that basically bakes a Docker container. We use JFrog Artifactory at the moment, so that houses our Docker registry. So what we do as part of it, we produce CentOS 7 and CentOS 6 images that our development teams use. So really what we've done here is part of that Packer process that produces those images also produces a container version. Then our application developers, they will basically take their application and layer it on top using their existing Ansible role. So that's really how we pull this all together. So that's just an example there of how we use Packer. You can see that in the post-processor, we're pushing it towards the Docker registry, and then we tag it. So that's really how we're doing the CI/CD piece of it. Each team has a Jenkins job that they create for this, and just as an additional step, they produce an RPM as part of it, and they also produce a container image, which they push at the same time. So the next step for us was really evaluating our different reference architectures that we could use for this. So the one that we're looking at the moment, and we're doing a POC in our lab environment, which Katie will take you through, is Kubernetes on top of OpenStack integrated with Nuage. So the way that this works is you will install on virtual machines within the OpenStack environment. You will install a Kubernetes master and minions. What we do is we substitute out the vanilla OpenStack, the vanilla Kubernetes components, and put in the Nuage Kubernetes monitor. So the monitor basically sits on the master. When you run a kubectl command, it will intercept this, integrate with the VSD policy engine, and then create policies automatically. So it will set up all your ACL rules behind the scenes. So you don't have to go into Nuage to basically create those policies manually. So that's an important integration. So to install this, we used the Ansible roles that were available through Nuage Networks that's on their GitHub repo. So one of the other things in this reference architecture is we're looking at a software load balancer solution. So we want to give our development teams a lot more visibility into the platform. So this is what we're using Avi Networks for. So Avi Networks has an integration with Kubernetes where you create a cloud connector. You will essentially set up all the Kubernetes master API. You will point it to that, and then what will happen is when you want to create services within Kubernetes, it will automatically detect that within Avi. So at the start, Avi Networks will push all the load balancers to every minion that you have in Kubernetes. And then when you create new services within Kubernetes, it will automatically create a load balance version of that and expose it here. These are what these bubbles are here on the screen. These are different services running. So it actually allows you to see the throughput between different containers, which is something that's nice for a visualization. And also in terms of security policy, you can see the ingress and egress rules between those containers. So you could whitelist them and blacklist them as well. So the other option that we're actually looking at and evaluating just now is for me, virtual machines and Kubernetes don't really mesh well. I would like to install bare metal nodes and basically run minions on top of them. So we have Ironic Standalone. We're evaluating Calico as a bake-off against Nuage for this, and basically integrating with Arista and early spine topology for that. So rather than using OpenStack, we're using Ironic Standalone, scale out the bare metal nodes, and then basically put Kubernetes running on top of that. So that's something that we're evaluating against. And then one of the things that we're looking to do is this is our VM workflow at the moment. So the way that we want our teams to operate is we will have an infrastructure pipeline that will automatically scale out new minions, and we will manage that from an infrastructure perspective. The teams in an availability zone will then partition it up and basically install their applications using services within Kubernetes in that particular availability zone. So we run a cluster for quality assurance in QA, one for our integration environment, one for our performance testing environment, and one for production. So their deployment pipelines would just be a one-step process rather than going through all those stages. So we've kind of split it up that way. Okay, so this is demo time, so I'll hand over to Katie to do the demo.
Okay.
Get that okay for time there?
So what we're going to showcase today is the integration between Nuage, OpenStack, and Kubernetes. So what you're going to see here, basically, can I see my mouse? Oh, yeah. So here we have a Kubernetes cluster with a single master. We have one master and two followers. They're creating our test lab in OpenStack. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what we have in Nuage at the moment. So this is our kind of L3 domain zone, which is just right here. We have it.
Yes. So basically for this piece, we have the different integrations. So we would have our quality assurance, our integration, our performance, and our production. So this is the Kubernetes cluster for this bit.
Yes. So we have already 3 zones with 3 dedicated subnets. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a new deployment, which we're going to call Sydney.
So we're just going to use the kubectl native.
Yeah.
We've already set up Kubernetes and Nuage integrated with that cluster. So the plugin's already installed.
So once we create a deployment, we're going to expose the service. And then we're going to run some basic commands to actually see where exactly this deployment is residing within the nodes. And we're going to see exactly what port it is listening to. So what we're going to have here is I'm going to expose all the ports. So it resides within the third node. So we have here kube node 3. And then we're going to expose all the services. So,
Not that one.
Not that one, yeah. Actually, let me do that.
Paste.
Yeah. So we have it within the third node, listening to this port.
Yeah. So if we go back to Nuage.
Yes. We'll be able to see this specific deployment, which is actually called Sydney.
Yeah. So you can basically see the container integration with Nuage here. So what that's done is behind the scenes, if you go to policies, so you have your ingress and egress policies within Nuage, and it's auto-generated this policy and all your ACLs for that container.
And the last thing we actually can do is accessing our pod. So we're just going to do this. And we're just going to, So what we're going to see is basically our deployment, and that's how we access it.
Yeah, so it's just running a simple nginx application. So some of the challenges on this at the moment are we have our 2 layers of networking within this. We need to performance test it. We need to do other things. We need to do an evaluation against Calico as well, just to see the pros and cons. So what we're really doing here is just at the start of our journey in terms of offering this as a service to our customers. But we hope to have this in place within the next 2 to 3 months and be offering it as a self-service option. So does anyone have any questions? think we did quite well for time there.